Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Edison Rulings. Today, we'll be going over frogs. Frogs are a popular engine in Edison format that's often paired with other strategies such as Monarchs, Ancient Gear, and recently, Burn. Here, we have Raunach's 5th place frog deck from the Deck Devastators 5 tournament. Frogs are deceptively tricky to deal with, and I hope I can help you understand how to deal with them in this video. First thing we'll be talking about is missing the timing. In frogs, this is a common occurrence. Essentially, missing the timing occurs because a card's trigger for its activation is not the last thing to happen in chain. This is reflected in the card text where it says, when you can. This means that if the card's trigger to activate is met when it's not the last thing to happen, you've missed your opportunity to activate the effect entirely. In this scenario, my opponent is activating Stratos as Chainlink 1 to search and chaining Torrential Tribute as Chainlink 2. As the chain resolves, Torrential will destroy both cards on the field, and as Stratos resolves, the last thing to happen is the adding of the hero card, not the destruction of Dupe Frog. Therefore, Dupe Frog misses its timing to activate its effect and will be sent to the graveyard without triggering. There are other ways to miss timing on trigger effects, such as Dupe Frog. If Dupe Frog is destroyed via a sequential effect, the best example being Raikou, first it'll pop the card, and then it'll mill 3 cards afterwards. The last thing to happen wasn't the destruction of Dupe Frog, it was the milling of the 3 cards. Therefore, Dupe Frog will miss its timing. If it was used for cost, such as discarding Jinzo Returner for Lightning Vortex, for example, you can't activate its effect because the last thing to happen was Lightning Vortex resolving. And finally, if it was used for a tribute or a ritual, fusion, or synchro summon, it can't activate. In this scenario, my opponent is going to be using their hero monsters and super polymerization using my Dupe Frog to make absolute 0. Now, because they activate super polymerization and use my Dupe Frog cannot trigger. Therefore, it will miss its timing. However, there is one thing you should always remember. It's that destruction by battle will always meet its trigger. It will never miss its timing if Dupe Frog is destroyed by battle. You will always get the search. Next, we'll talk about Treeborn Frog. Treeborn Frog is not affected by Necro Valley, as it does not target itself in the graveyard to summon itself. This includes other cards such as Totem Dragon. Treeborn Frog can also be activated multiple times in the standby phase, as prominently used with enemy controller. And you'll see right now, we'll activate Treeborn Frog's effect, chain enemy controller, and take the monster, and then activate Treeborn Frog again. Finally, because Treeborn can be activated multiple times in the standby phase, you can do really interesting things with Light and Darkness Dragon. If there's a Light and Darkness Dragon on the field and a Treeborn Frog in grave, you can essentially drain the Light and Darkness Dragon of its effect by activating it multiple times. It's also important to note that if you attempt to activate Oppression against Treeborn Frog, it's essentially useless because it'll just keep activating until it can special summon itself, and you're paying 800 life points for each activation. Next, we'll talk about Soul Exchange. You cannot activate Soul Exchange in main phase 2 because you've already conducted your battle phase. Soul Exchange has a condition at the end of it where you cannot conduct the battle phase the turn you activate this effect. Now, if the activation of Soul Exchange is negated, such as with Solemn Judgment or Dark Bribe, then this condition will not be applied because it never resolved. However, if the effect is negated, such as with Dark Balter the Terrible, it'll negate the effect of the spell card. The condition is still applied. That means, even though the card was negated in its effect, you still cannot conduct your battle phase. Finally, we'll talk about Battle Fader. Battle Fader's effect activates and resolves in hand. This effect is not affected by skill drain. However, this effect can be negated by royal oppression. Lastly, if Battle Vader is targeted by Caius the Shadow Monarch's effect to banish it, it will not be banished by Caius' effect. It'll actually be banished by its own effect when it's removed from the field. Therefore, you will not take 1,000 points of damage from Caius' effect because it was never banished by Caius. Thank you so much for all the support. I recently moved into a new apartment, and that's been taking time away from making these videos. However, I have time now, and I'm going to be making more of these videos again. And I'll be uploading new ruling videos as soon as possible. Thank you, have a nice day, and I'll see you in the next video.